You winners do not move when it's easy. They move because they've decided to move. Their mindset is rooted in commitment, a level of dedication that is untouched by how they feel on any given day. Convenience is never the compass they use to direct their actions. They know that anything worth building, becoming, or achieving demands effort beyond comfort. Winners understand that discipline, not desire, drives real progress. When you operate from convenience, your actions depend on mood, whether other people's opinions or temporary motivation. You work out when you feel like it. You study when you're inspired. You show up when it's exciting. But the moment friction appears, you retreat, you rationalize. You say, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes next week, next month, or never. This is the trap most people fall into. They let their feelings dictate their future. Winners reject that completely. For them, the decision is already made. The commitment is already locked in. It doesn't matter if it's raining, if they're tired, or if nobody believes in them. They still show up because they made a promise to themselves. And they take that promise seriously. That inner contract is sacred. This difference in operating systems, commitment vs. is everything. It separates the people who talk about their goals from the people who achieve them. Convenience creates a cycle of hesitation and excuses. Commitment creates a rhythm of action and momentum. And momentum is where power lies. It's not about being a robot. Winners feel everything. Fear, doubt, fatigue, boredom. But they don't obey those feelings. They hear them and move anyway. They've trained themselves to lead their mind, not follow it. That's the discipline of a champion. The ability to override comfort for the sake of a higher outcome. If you study elite performers, world-class athletes, top entrepreneurs, anyone who's built anything exceptional, you'll notice a common thread. They all have a code they live by, and that code isn't flexible based on emotion. It's principle-based, not feeling-based. They wake up and execute even when they don't feel like it, especially when they don't feel like it, because they know that those are the moments that count the most. You see, winners don't leave their future to chance. They don't gamble with time. They don't wait to feel ready because they know that readiness comes after action, not before it. They do what needs to be done regardless of the mood they're in. They show up to the gym tired. They get on stage nervous. They make the call uncertain. They still do it. That's commitment. Convenience will always whisper to you. It will always offer the easy way out. It will always justify delay and disguise fear as logic. But winners don't listen. They've silenced that voice through action. Every time they push through resistance, they strengthen the muscle of commitment. And over time, that becomes who they are. It's not something they do. It becomes their identity. Winners build their life around their commitments, not their comfort. Their schedule is a reflection of their priorities, not their preferences. If something matters to them, it gets done, period. Not squeezed in when everything else is handled. Not pushed to the weekend. It gets carved into their daily discipline like a ritual. And here's the truth: life will test your commitment. It will send you delays, setbacks, and chaos just to see what you're made of. It will push you to the edge and ask, how bad do you want it? And your answer won't come in words. It will come in action, in consistency, in showing up again and again, without applause, without recognition, without a guarantee. This is what separates from everyone else. Their ability to keep going when there's no external reward. Their ability to keep pushing when nothing feels good. Because they aren't doing it for a mood. They're doing it for a mission. The mindset of operating from commitment changes everything. You stop looking for motivation and start creating discipline. You stop negotiating with your goals and start honoring your word. You stop chasing momentum and start building it. There is no whiff or maybe. There is only when, how. When you move from convenience to commitment, your entire relationship with time, pressure, and resistance changes. You no longer seek the easiest path, you seek the most effective one. You no longer get paralyzed by failure, you use it. You no longer ask, can I do this? You declare, I will. And in that shift, everything becomes possible. Winners by a different internal code, one that doesn't allow them to settle, compromise, or coast. The mentality of a winner is rooted in standards, not feelings. High performance, excellence, and consistent progress don't happen by accident. They are the byproducts of expectations that are non-negotiable. When someone operates with average standards, their life reflects it. In their results, in their habits, in their relationships, and in their confidence. Winners elevate every part of life by elevating what they're willing to tolerate from themselves. And that begins with a decision: I will no longer accept less than I'm capable of. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they don't want more. It's because they haven't decided to demand more from themselves. They're waiting for the outside world to change, for someone to recognize them, for a lucky break, for the conditions to be perfect. But the winners, you have a screwed up life. They realize the outside doesn't shift until the inside does. They don't wait for an opportunity to become great. They create it by holding themselves to a higher bar every single day. Raising your standards means setting rules for yourself that don't bend when pressure shows up. It means saying no to shortcuts, no to lazy thinking, and no to anything that doesn't align with your future. It's not about perfection. It's about refusing to settle into comfort when you know you have more in you. Winners are obsessed with the gap between where they are and where they could be. That gap doesn't frustrate them. It fuels them. People who settle for average often live in a loop of justification. They tell themselves it's good enough, or I'm doing better than most. That kind of thinking is a trap, and it's the enemy of progress. The truth is, average is crowded. It's filled with people who have potential but no standards. Winners choose to live in a smaller space, a space where excellence is the baseline, not the exception, where accountability is welcome, not avoided, where they critique themselves harder than anyone else ever could, not because they're self-destructive, but because they refuse to stay small. To raise your standards means you raise your identity. You begin to see yourself differently, not just as someone trying to improve, but as someone who leads, someone who builds, someone who shapes their life intentionally. Identity drives behavior. And when your identity is tied to greatness, laziness becomes uncomfortable. Excuses become foreign. Distraction loses its appeal. Winners don't just aim high. They live highs. Don't just sit on vision boards. Their goals live in their routines, in their wake-up times, in their food choices, in how they speak to people, in how they manage pressure. Every little detail matters because every little detail becomes a vote for who they're becoming. When your standards are high, your habits follow. When your habits are elevated, your results change. This is not some quick fix formula. It's a deep, lasting shift in how you show up to your life. The truth is, raising your standards is hard. That's why most avoid it. It forces you to face yourself, to get honest about where you're coasting, and to take responsibility for what you've allowed. It's easier to blame the system, the past, or the circumstances. But winners don't play that game. They don't outsource their accountability. They own it, even the parts that hurt. Every major breakthrough starts with a raised standard. The athlete who decides that second place is no longer enough, the entrepreneur who refuses to keep operating like a hobbyist, the artist who says no to mediocrity and yes to mastery. They all have one thing in common: they demanded more from themselves before anyone else ever expected it. And that internal demand changed their external world. When you raise your standards, it's not just about big goals, it's about the micro decisions. Do you hit snooze or get up? Do you scroll or study? Do you settle or speak up? These moments define you more than you think. Winners know that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So they bring intensity, clarity, and presence to the smallest tasks. They're not waiting for the big opportunity to give their best. They give their best because that's just who they are now. The people around you will feel it too. When your standards rise, your circle either rises with you or falls away. Not everyone will understand it. Some will call it obsessive. Some will feel threatened. But that's the cost of greatness. Winners aren't interested in being liked. They're interested in becoming the best version of themselves. And that means outgrowing old stories, old habits, and sometimes even old relationships. Raising your standards is not a moment. It's a commitment to a new level of living. It's the choice to never shrink back into who you used to be, no matter how tired or discouraged you feel. It's a declaration that average is no longer an option. Failure is not the enemy of winners. It's one of their most powerful tools. They do not run from failure. They do not fear it. They do not hide from it or try to mask it with ego. Winners face failure head on and squeeze every drop of value from it. What breaks most people becomes building material for them. Where others see shame or regret, they see data. They see feedback. They see fire. Because in the mind of a winner, failure is never final. It's formative. The average person associates failure with identity. When they fail, they think, I'm not good enough, or I knew I wasn't capable. That mindset is poison. It ties self-worth to outcome. But winners separate outcome from identity. They can fail without feeling like failures. That difference changes everything. It gives them the courage to try again, to stretch further, to put themselves in uncomfortable positions where growth happens. Because the person who is terrified of failure is the person who never takes real risks. And without risk, there is no greatness. Winners understand that failure is the tuition you pay for mastery. There is not shortcut around it. It's not something you avoid. It's something you prepare for and learn to work through. Think about any skill, any craft, any dream. It doesn't come with guarantees. You will fall. You will make mistakes. You will get things wrong. Winners expect that, but instead of using failure as a stop sign, they use it as a mirror. They ask, what can I learn? Where can I adjust? How do I improve? This curiosity turns failure into fuel. There is a resilience that comes from failure that comfort can never produce. When you've been knocked down and had to rebuild, you develop an inner strength that can't be faked. That strength becomes part of your character. Winners don't just win because they're smarter or faster. They win because they've been broken, humbled, and tested. And they kept showing up. Every failure deepens their hunger and sharpens their edge. It adds layers to their mindset that no book or seminar could ever provide. It makes them dangerous. Not in the physical sense, but in the sense that they cannot be easily shaken. People often ask how winners stay motivated through hard times. The answer is they don't rely on motivation. They rely on perspective. They see failure not as a setback, but as a signal. It tells them where to pivot or grow, where the next breakthrough is hiding. They don't waste time crying over what didn't work. They study it, they analyze it, and then they try again. Smarter, stronger, more focused. Every failure in their mind is part of the process, not a deviation from it. The problem with most people is they're too fragile. The moment things don't go according to plan, they collapse emotionally. They take it personally. They label themselves based on the result. Winners don't do that. They're emotionally tough because they've built a habit of using failure. They've conditioned themselves to expect friction, to expect resistance, to expect difficulty, and because they expect it, they are ready when it comes. They don't see it as a personal attack. They see it as a necessary stage on the path to something greater. Failure also has a way of exposing what matters. When everything falls apart, you find out real quick what you're made of. Are you doing this for recognition, or are you doing it because you're obsessed with the process? Are you chasing applause, or are you chasing purpose? Winners don't just tolerate failure. They value it for what it reveals. You have a screwed up life. It strips away the fluff and exposes the truth. It forces them to rebuild from a deeper place, a more honest place. That's why their success is sustainable. Because it's not built on hype. It's built on scars and lessons and grit. Every high achiever has a long list of failures behind them. The failed business, the missed opportunity, the rejection, the injury, the betrayal. But those moments weren't the end. They were the ignition. They were the spark that forced them to reinvent, refocus, and recommit. Winners know that failure doesn't steal their power unless they let it. In fact, failure can become the very source of their power when they own it and transform it. There's also something liberating about embracing failure. When you're no longer afraid of it, you become unstoppable. You don't hesitate. You don't play small. You don't tiptoe around your dreams. You move boldly. You take big swings. You understand that even if you fall flat on your face, you'll get up better than before. And that confidence, that freedom, creates a mental edge that most people never touch. While others are paralyzed by what might go wrong, winners are focused on what they're willing to learn, no matter what happens. Failure is not a verdict. It's a teacher. And winners are relentless students. They collect lessons, sharpen their strategies, and grow in the shadows before they ever shine in the spotlight. The average person spends their life trying to avoid discomfort. They want safety, predictability, ease. They design their days around minimizing friction, reducing effort, and staying within the familiar. Winners live in the opposite direction. They deliberately walk toward what others run from. Where most people see discomfort as something to escape, winners see it as the doorway to growth. They know that pain isn't punishment. It's preparation. Every breakthrough they've ever experienced was preceded by discomfort they were willing to endure. Discomfort is not just physical. It's emotion up life. It's emotional and spiritual. It's the anxiety before a big decision, the fear before speaking your truth, the doubt that shows up before taking action. Most people surrender to that discomfort. They convince themselves it's a sign to pull back. They misinterpret it as a warning when it's really an invitation. Winners know this distinction. They've trained themselves to respond differently when pressure rises. They don't retreat. They don't slow down. They lean in. You cannot grow and stay comfortable at the same time. That's a universal law. Yet many people try to find some imaginary middle ground where they get stronger without ever being stretched. That space doesn't exist. Every skill worth developing demands discomfort. Every level you want to reach requires a sacrifice of ego, of convenience, of false certainty. The winners have made peace with this. They've made discomfort part of their training. It's not something they endure reluctantly. It's something they embrace intentionally. There is a deep power in doing the hard thing when every part of you wants to avoid it. It reshapes your self-image. Every time you walk into discomfort, you cast a vote for the person you're becoming. Winners accumulate these votes daily. They stack moments of courage. They build a history with themselves that says, I do the things there's a void. That identity becomes armor. It makes them more dangerous, more resilient, more capable under pressure. Discomfort also brings clarity. When you're in it, there's nowhere to hide. You can't fake your way through pain. You find out who you are, what you believe, and what you're truly willing to fight for. That's why winners don't just tolerate discomfort. They look for it. They understand that the greatest version of themselves lives on the other side of it. Every day, they stretch beyond the limits of what's comfortable, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they value growth more than they value ease. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not the ones who avoid discomfort. They are the ones who master their relationship with it. They build calluses on their mind. They become comfortable being uncomfortable. This doesn't mean they're fearless. It means they've developed the discipline to act regardless of fear. They've replaced the need for comfort with the need for expansion. And that shift changes everything. Winners seek out the hard conversations. They take on the challenging roles. They volunteer for the uncomfortable responsibilities. Not because it feels good, but because they know those are the moments that shape them. Growth doesn't come from theory or intention. It comes from experience, from pressure, from effort, from stepping into the unknown with courage. Avoiding discomfort is a habit, so is embracing it. Most people never train that muscle. They allow themselves to get soft, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And that softness shows up when it matters most. They crumble under criticism. They freeze in uncertainty. They flinch when challenged. Winners are the opposite. They stay sharp. They build the muscle of grit. They become immune to external chaos because they've already fought through internal chaos. That discipline gives them an advantage that no competitor can fake. Discomfort is also the birthplace of confidence. True confidence doesn't come from comfort zones. It comes from proving to yourself over and over again that you can handle what life throws at you. When you choose the difficult path, when you voluntarily expose yourself to pressure, you begin to build a quiet, unshakable belief in your ability to adapt. That belief becomes your power source. It's not loud or flashy. It's not performative. It's rooted in experience, in suffering, in effort. There's no better training than choosing the hard road when no one's watching. You have a screw to life. That's where character is forged. That's where mental toughness is born. Winners don't wait for life to get easier. They don't wait for things to slow down or for obstacles to disappear. They develop the capacity to thrive in the storm, to stay focused while uncomfortable, to execute with excellence while under pressure, because they've rehearsed it, they've lived it, they've earned that right. The truth is, discomfort is the tax you pay for transformation. If you want to become someone you've never been, you'll have to do things you've never done. You'll have to step into the fire again and again and find peace in it. The people who stay stuck are not unlucky. They're unwilling. They've chosen comfort over change. Winners don't make that trade. They understand the pain of growth is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. Purpose is not just an idea to winners. It's not a slogan on a wall, not a vague dream, not something they reference only when times are good. It is the foundation, the unshakable ground beneath decisions, their energy, their focus. Without a clear and compelling purpose, motivation fades fast. Discipline weakens. Momentum dies in silence. But when a winner is anchored to purpose, they can withstand storms that crush others. They can stay steady in chaos. Purpose gives meaning to pain and power to effort. It turns sacrifice into investment and suffering into strategy. Winners do not operate from shallow goals. They are not in the game just to impress others, collect titles, or accumulate external validation. They are moved by something deeper, something more personal and often more emotional than what's visible on the surface. Their purpose is born from struggle, shaped through adversity, and kept alive by a relentless vision of the future they want to build. That clarity of purpose becomes their internal compass. It tells them where to go when the path gets dark. It keeps them moving when energy runs low. It pulls them forward when everything around them is screaming to turn back. You can spot someone with purpose by how they show up. They move with intention. They train with urgency. They live with a fire that doesn't flicker under pressure. Purpose isn't about always feeling strong. It's about knowing why you must keep going, especially when you don't feel strong at all. It's the voice that whispers louder than fear. It's the reason behind the routine, the passion behind the preparation. When someone is locked into purpose, they no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" They ask, "Does this move me closer to what I'm meant to become?" And that question changes everything. People who lack purpose chase distractions. They bounce from one goal to the next. You have a screwed up life, hoping that external success will somehow create internal satisfaction. But winners know that achievement without alignment is empty. Winning at something that doesn't matter to you will never bring peace. That's why they take time to define their mission, to get crystal clear on who they are, what they stand for, and what they refuse to tolerate in their life. This process of alignment creates a level of focus that most people never reach. When your actions are tied to your purpose, even the hard days serve a function. The pain becomes part of the story. The struggle becomes sacred. You begin to view obstacles not as punishment, but as part of your preparation. Purpose reframes everything. It doesn't make things easier, but it makes them worth it. That emotional connection to a deeper reason gives winners the edge. It keeps their energy consistent when others burn out. It keeps them humble when success arrives and hungry when it's still far away. Purpose is also what sustains long-term excellence. Talent might get you a fast start. Drive might get you noticed. But only purpose keeps you climbing when you've already achieved what others consider enough. It removes the finish line. It makes every milestone a checkpoint, not a conclusion. That's why winners don't get complacent. They don't settle. They know their purpose isn't a single event. It's a lifelong call, and that mentality is rare, and it's powerful. It creates legacy, not just success. There are moments in every winner's journey when the noise gets loud. The criticism, the doubt, the temptation to give up or play smaller. In those moments, talent doesn't save you. Motivation doesn't rescue you. Only purpose cuts through that noise. It reminds you why you started. It reminds you what's at stake. It reminds you that this journey is bigger than your current feelings or your temporary fatigue. It connects the present to the future and makes every action today matter. Purpose doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it means making hard decisions. Sometimes it means sacrificing comfort, relationships, or old habits that no longer align. But winners don't view those choices as loss. They view them as alignment. Because when you're living your purpose, you no longer crave external permission. You no longer chase everyone's approval. You lead your own life on your own terms for reasons that light you up from within. The world constantly tries to pull people away from their purpose. Distractions, trends, opinions, all of it competing for attention. But winners are rooted. They protect their purpose like it's sacred, because it is. It's not up for debate. It's not something they trade for short-term pleasure or validation. It's who they are. It's what gives their discipline context. It's what gives their goals meaning. And because they're led by purpose, they can walk through chaos with calm. They can take hits and keep going, not because they love pain, but because they love what that pain is building. Purpose gives them permission to be relentless. It gives their suffering a direction. It gives their routine soul. The mentality of a winner is not built in moments of applause or success. It's forged in silence, in struggle, in the choices made when nobody's watching. It's the quiet commitment to show up, to demand more, not from the world, but from yourself. Winners are not defined by victories. They are defined by their standards, their hunger, their ability to take pain and shape it into power. They do not wait for motivation. They do not seek comfort. They do not run from failure. They move with purpose. They lead with discipline. They train their mind to outlast fatigue, outthink fear, and outgrow limitation. Every step they take is intentional. Every setback is fuel, and every moment of doubt is met with an unshakable decision to rise. This mentality is not gifted. It is chosen. Chosen in early mornings, in lonely hours, in the battles no one sees. You don't need to be born with greatness. You need to refuse to quit until you become it. You need to commit to living above convenience, to chasing discomfort, and to letting your purpose speak louder than your excuses. The winner's mind isn't a mindset. It's a way of life. And once you choose it, nothing can take it from you.